What's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you guys how I managed to take this loss for NASDAQ and lose 1% of my account. So for trading today, as you can tell, I took a loss on NASDAQ. I got in at 9:04, um, and market ended up wanting to not go into my position. And I'm glad it didn't because I had the completely wrong daily bias. Let's get right into it. So, starting out, the start of the day. I'm gonna go like this. So at the start of the day, we had this, and then we had this and this for liquidity sweeps. And then that was for the 1 hour liquidity sweeps. And then 4 hour liquidity sweeps, we had this and this. So looking at NASDAQ, I was like, okay, market opens. Market opens, takes out all of the liquidity up there. So then that's where I got my bias. And it didn't hit this hourly liquidity right there. So then I got in and I was like, okay, it's going to go down to this hour liquidity because S&P was already down at the hourly liquidity. S&P didn't take any upper liquidity though. And that's where I got confused. So was all it did was go down. See? All it did was go down and it hit liquidity down here. So it created an SMT for bullish SMT. But instead, I thought it was going to be bearish SMT. But in reality, if NASDAQ or the S&P hits something and then the other one doesn't, so right here, I'll go to 5 minute. So S&P didn't hit any sell side liquidity, right? NASDAQ already hit the sell side liquidity, meaning that S&P has to do the same exact thing. Whereas I flip-flopped them. So I was like, okay, NASDAQ hit sell side liquidity. Now it's got to go to buy side. And that's where I went wrong. In reality, NASDAQ hit all of this sell side, and then I should have just been looking at the S&P because S&P would follow NASDAQ. And just because it didn't take out anything doesn't mean anything. And then it hit down and it hit buy side liquidity. Meaning it's getting more liquidity so that it can push up there. And there were no trades on S&P. I'll go over that soon. But yeah, it was so I just completely flip-flopped my bias and I realized it right after I entered the trade, but I also was like, okay, I'm gonna let it hit my stop loss because that's all I could really do. And that's another thing. If you have the wrong bias and you realize it during your trade, don't just change it because maybe you do have the right bias and maybe you're just overthinking it. And just let it hit stop loss or take profit without hitting anything or without moving anything, sorry. But anyways, I got stopped out immediately, like 10 minutes after I got stopped out. And that's okay because getting stopped out isn't the end of the world. You should be willing to risk all of the money that you put in. So looking back at the S&P, so looking at NASDAQ, it took out all those high time frame. It took up all those sell side, correct? S&P didn't take any of that sell. S&P didn't take any of that sell side. As you can tell, all it did was take out buy side. So you would have been looking at NASDAQ and you would have been like, okay, it hit all of the sell side. S&P's got to do the same thing. And that's where I went wrong today. And this is how I managed to lose 1% of my account. So then, if you go over to NASDAQ, or the S&P, sorry. If you go over the S&P, you look, and there were clear longs in here. Like, right here, there's a fair value gap. It got filled. It got filled. It broke structure right here. Could have went like this. And you could have targeted all the way up here. Or you could have targeted the hourly high for sell side because you're like, okay, NASDAQ has to go there. So does the S&P. And it's going to be a super long trade, but look what happened. This is why, if your bias is right, you can target anything. You can target absolutely anything. Because if your bias is right and you take the right trade, you will win the trade. If your bias is right and you get in when everyone else gets in, you can target everything. Because look what happens. It goes up, it seeks out where everyone wants to get out. Look what happened. Seeked out where everyone wants to get out, stopped everyone out, and proceeded to go back up and hit the actual take profit. And this is if you're trying to manage a position all day. Like this didn't get hit till 12:30. And this is Central Time. So you would have been in the trade for 3 hours, which is completely okay. Because if you're willing to put that risk on the table, knowing that you could get stopped out after this move, that's okay. And that's just a part of your risk management. If you're willing and wanting to risk that, knowing that you could get stopped out right here, and that's your strategy, go ahead and do that. But S&P, I didn't take anything because it didn't follow my rules specifically. Because just because this fair value gap got filled, it wasn't enough, and it broke structure right up here because it inversed this fair value gap. And like the stops are big. Take profit was big as well. But it wasn't the trade that I was willing to take. And I wish I would have seen this. And even if I did have the right bias, I still wouldn't have taken any trade. So it's like, I'm glad I took this NASDAQ trade because it gave me a little wake-up call because I haven't traded for a little under a week. So it gave me this little wake-up call as in, what the hell are you doing? You know, wake up. Like, and it's not that this loss is bothering me because I lost money. This loss is like, okay, I need to change my bias. Bam, let's move on to the next one. Today is Thursday. We have FOMC today. And I hope you guys are safe trading today. This will definitely get posted. Probably in the late afternoon. But just make sure to be smart trading today. Even though this is kind of going to be post trading. But yeah, this was my trade today. It's a loss, and that's okay because everyone takes losses, and it's just the people that learn from them that get all the profits. And if you can't learn from your losses, you forget trading. Just quit it. Take all your money out of your account. Quit trading. Because if you can't take a loss, you will never ever be profitable. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped you a little bit. Hopefully you guys won on yesterday. And if you did, good job. Hopefully you guys keep it consistent. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you.